during this process, so thank you for giving your time. My name is Jennifer Hudson. I'm the Director of the Quality Enhancement Plan. I'm here specifically to give you more details about our request for the Global Scholar Travel Award, which is an initiative that we were able to finally fulfill from our QEP proposal in this academic year, so starting in 2016-2017. So by training, I'm a historian, so unfortunately you'll have to bear with me through a little bit of context because I wanted you to understand that the Global Scholars Program exists as part of a larger umbrella. So I did go ahead and pull the university mission statement, which was actually influenced by our quality enhancement plan here at the university, and how the Global Scholars Program, which is only one tenet of the quality enhancement plan, specifically addresses the second sentence of the mission statement, which is engaging our students in creative discovery and dissemination of knowledge. So with the Global Scholars Program here, we are assessing freshmen for the first time on whether we're actually fulfilling that mission statement. Are we actually doing what we say that we're doing? And so we start with our first-time full-time students and actually issue them the Global Competence Aptitude Assessment to set a baseline of how they're coming in, prepared for all of these things we're saying we're going to do. And then through their experience here at the university, courses, events that you all sponsor, activities and travel, how are they growing and developing, actually learning new things, and that we can say at the end of their experience that we did this, okay? So our quality enhancement plan is required through our SAC-COC reaffirmation process, and in that is our Global Fellow and Global Scholars Program, which are specifically aligned with the university mission and strategic plan. So these two programs together should do exactly what the mission statement says, that we're going to expose students and prepare them right for what comes after college. And so the QEP essentially, or the tenets of the QEP, are also in an entire segment of the university strategic plan. And so my request comes from the need to fulfill what we say we're going to do in the university strategic plan. So I specifically excerpted just the parts that are applicable to what my request is, but that we will generate 100 global scholars each year, and then from that, we will increase the number of students participating in study abroad. So the incentive, essentially, to go through the Global Scholars process is the reward or possibility of having funded travel abroad experiences for students. And so this is, I guess my request is couched in all of these things, so I did also cite right where you could find that there on the website. So talking about our global scholars, you can see here, I don't want to be redundant, you're obviously literate people that can read, but our Global Scholar Program has specific objectives. And so what I want to be clear is the Global Scholars Program does exist outside of this need to send students abroad. We know that they can have transformative experiences here on campus, that they can understand these global trends, dynamics, and themes from the courses you teach, from the events that you sponsor, from all the things that we do. And so what we want to do then is now reward or incentivize what they can do. So I'm going to speed up. All right, so how do we use the money that you gave us last year? So the numbers, I'll be honest and transparent, are not with what is listed in the strategic plan, which is 100. We only had 34 applications out of 274 eligible students. 26 of those are selected, with 9 awards issued for travel funding. Those are selected by a committee of faculty and staff who are global fellows. So with the little bit of wiggle room that we have, we were able to go ahead and purchase the graduation regalia, have a recognition ceremony, and then invest in marketing and promotion materials for next year to get our number to that 100 goal that we have as part of our strategic plan. I did include here, in case someone's checking the budget, that is currently still estimated because the May, mini, and summer sessions only recently opened for registration. Our students do physically register for accredited course, so they do generate tuition and fees for the university, and so we don't have those numbers compiled yet. The students are going to 5 different locations with faculty and staff, again, as part of credited coursework that generates revenue back for the university. So what are we going to use the future money for? Giving it to students. So ideally, if given $50,000 again, we could do 10 fully funded travel awards based on this year's number, or a possibility of 25 like smaller awards that could be about $2,000 for students. I can go back to that in your questions. But so what are the implications if we lost this funding? Obviously, we would not be able to fulfill the things that are outlined in our strategic plan. I also include a picture of a carrot because essentially this global travel award is our carrot for getting students to take these assessments at the beginning, to log their activity in the ePortfolio systems and talk about all the amazing things you're doing. and then to allow us to assess them at the end, right? This is what we dangle in front of them. So a loss of this funding would essentially be a loss of our ability to entice them into this process.
Time.
Wow.
Questions?
Yeah.
Given that QEP was part of our accreditation with SAC-COC, why wasn't it just decided that the university would pay for this out of its annual budget? It seems to me that the university should support its own move for accreditation. That burden falling to the students does seem a bit concerning.
Sure. So I think that's a very fair question. So if you look back on the report that we actually submitted to SAC-COC, the QEP budget that was requested was $725,000 to operationalize everything that was promised in there. Unfortunately, and as we know, that money was not distributed, so the QEP actually operates with a small budgeted line item that we essentially use to pay a graduate assistant to help with carrying out these programs. So since that was before my reign, I don't know specifically how it went to the student service fee so much as a lack of probably $700,000, but a way, since it was this element of the QEP specifically benefiting students, to allow, I guess, the student service fee to do that. Great question.
Do you have any sense of the students that you funded that they would have done this anyway had they had to fund it themselves?
Good question. So anecdotally, I can go off of, I would say it would be about half and half. So we had half that were like, I was already interested in this, I was going to figure out a way to do it, and that's what kind of motivated them to go through the application process. The other half are truthfully those like that responded back, oh my gosh, this is my Christmas present, I could never dream that during my time here I could do this. So for those that are a little bit more affordable trips, so we have like 2 that are going with social work. And so they had kind of in their mind figured out a way that they might be able to make that happen. But on some of our more expensive trips, they were truthfully $5,000. The students were completely overwhelmed with how to begin to cobble together information for that. But that'd be a great thing to keep track of, so that's a good suggestion. Thank you.
The travel fellowships, are they given independently to students who are just looking to pursue travel, or could those be concurrently with something like Leadership Without Limits or the Regents Study Abroad trip?
So we're actually taking 3 of the Global Scholars on the Regent Scholars trip this year. So each of the students who are traveling with an existing study abroad course, not creating new study abroad courses, which I mean would be an awesome goal, but they're supporting those existing efforts. And what we like about that in essence is they're helping those trips make, but they're lessening the financial burden on, say, like the Global Programs Office or on the students that have to pay a high proportion of a trip cost because of like who's going or something like that. So did that answer?
Well, I guess then as a follow-up then, is there concern because you say if they're lessening the cost to others, then obviously the cost to them is adjusted, but if you're allocating them,
they can't receive more than $5,000.
Right.
We have some that are receiving the full 5, some that are receiving like $2,800.
Could they not receive the remainder of that
They
as spending
cannot.
money on the trip?
We opted not to do anything that was perceived as a refund or paying the student because I felt like that was a little dicey. So instead, that's where we ended up with a little bit of money essentially that was not spent, was because we didn't feel comfortable with giving the student the full 5 of the trip cost.
But then inherently that student would feel that over the course of 4 years, he or she putting in 100% of the work was not receiving 100% of the funds.
I would say that the way that we present it in all of our documentation is it does say up to $5,000, and then we did survey the students with all of the options. Here's every international trip that's going, here's the dates, here's the cost, here's the course name and location, and they did have the option to preference that knowing the cost up front. And so that I think would be an interesting contingency, I guess, for the future, but in an effort, I guess, to keep it as equitable and not issuing students refunds as possible.
Well, that also says something to your program that they're going for the experience, they're going to the place, they're not
Rather
going
than
for
the
the
cost.
dollar amount. It's a $10,000 trip. They're going
Yeah.
to Nicaragua because they want to go there, not because it's cheaper or
Yes,
more expensive.
and I think the benefit, at least this year, is because they are accredited courses that are going, like it has an academic component that enhances their time here as well, and the students are getting tuition fees, 3 credit hours, so think about those kind of intangibles. So with social work, the trip cost is $2,500, but they also have $1,000 of tuition and fees, which is covered through their travel award. So trying to just mitigate, right, the amount of cost, and of course spending money is on them, but there's a limit to what we can provide students that they need to have some ownership and accountability for. The extension to the university is that these students are required for receiving this travel grant to go to the freshman signature courses. Now we know they'll be with the mentor groups and the signature courses and share these experiences as part of service back to the institution and get new students interested in the process earlier on. Again, because our goal is to eventually get to 100 students being recognized for this annually.
And it might be in here, Jennifer, but who's paying for the faculty to go? Or
So
chaperones?
because these trips were already set up, there were already budgets created for each of the trips. So that's where the student cost is derived from. So most faculty structure their trip cost to cover their costs,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
So it's not coming from this?
It is not. So they do not receive any of this money to go towards faculty. I guess in essence it does because they might pay for their airfare by charging each student $100 to cover $1,200 or something like that in the trip charge. But no faculty direct costs like their food or anything is going to come from student money. Good question, thank you.
Does the data from the GCAA, so far at least, I guess, pre-trip and post-trip, since if I understand it correctly, it would be hard to assess post-graduation at this point, bear out that students really are benefiting not only from our GLB courses,
Yeah.
but the trips as well?
That's a great question, so I wish I had brought that. So one of our graduate students actually presented on that last week at the Graduate Research Symposium, that not only does traveling abroad indicate a higher level of GCAA score, but how long the student is abroad. So we looked at like 1 week trips, 1 to 2 week trips versus 3 to 5 week or more. And the biggest area of growth and risk taking and external readiness comes from these experiences. So we saw over a 5 percentage points difference in students who traveled abroad in all of the areas of global competence to be developed. This spring semester is the first time we'll have the chance to issue the graduation assessment to see for students who started in fall 2014 that are graduating. There's only 15, so it won't be like earth shattering. But the point is that we'll have a chance to assess them and see now how many courses have they taken, did they travel abroad, and then really look at how much growth did they experience through their time here at the university. But anticipated based on what we have now, because we keep track of the travel data, we can't imagine that there would not be a higher level of increase from those that traveled abroad than those that didn't.
Given the fact that we are, of course, in a tight budget year, if there was to be a cut to this awarded amount, would the amount of each individual travel scholarship be reduced, or would you just curtail the actual number of scholarships being awarded?
Good question. I think that's a question I would probably take to the Global Fellow Committee since they're the ones sponsoring the trip. However, I think we would obviously exhaust all of the resources allocated for students first and serving the most students that we could, but to the point where it was worth something. So if you get $500, are you going to be as likely to take advantage of a $5,000 trip? Maybe not. But if it could be $2,500, it suddenly becomes more manageable. So I think in whatever way that amount is derived, I would do my best to serve as many students as possible. It just happened to work out this year that we had 9 perfectly qualified students and they could receive a full award. I realize that can't be sustainable over a time period if the program grows the way that we hope and anticipate that it will grow. But I would say it would decrease to a point that it would be a reasonable number to still warrant an award, right, of sorts to travel abroad.
There's 75 seconds left. Okay, one last question for Jennifer. I know it's weird, I'm sorry.
It is.
No?
Favorite food? What are you doing after this? Happy hour? No, nothing?